Stand by for action.
Showtime. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Ready.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show, starring Jeff Lutz.
The street smart fish out of water in a world he never made.
I don't grill, I don't cook out, I don't sear, I don't season, I don't braise. I know that makes me less of a man in some people's eyes, but it's just, I don't know how to do it.
I don't know what that is, man. Hey, cool, baby, don't tell me.
And Jason Duda. For today, anyway.
Because we call bacon. The Americans have Canadian bacon. We call it ham.
I totally don't know what that means, but I want it.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on here today?
Good afternoon and welcome. It is Bob and Jeff on KFH Radio. Is it Bob? Is it Jeff? Is it Bob? Will it be Bob? Jason? You answer.
I wasn't sure where we were going with that. Obviously, we didn't go over the show before the show started.
Over the show.
So
maybe we should do that.
I didn't realize that I was supposed to jump in there. I thought you were doing something that Jeff does.
Well, will we hear from Bob today? That is the big question, because while he...
It's funny you said the big question.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
I thought I just said the question.
The big question.
That's the big question today, because he has been discharged from a Kansas City area hospital. He has been on the road toward Wichita. Has he arrived in Wichita? Is he here? Don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know where he is.
I don't know. I'm not allowed to keep that close track of him.
We do know someone who will be here hopefully momentarily, unless they bailed on us, which, you know, I just interviewed this person, so
there's a better chance now that he will bail.
If he decided that, hey, I don't really feel like putting up with this guy again, I guess I get it. And
I get it, and I wasn't even there.
Well, it was a fun interview, and I'll put it out. I'll put it out next week on Spotify. Hopefully, we'll have some video elements to it to put out on Channel 12's website and social media. But the person we're talking about, formerly known as The Big Show in WWE, now he's just Paul Wight. That's his name. That's what he's going by. He's in AEW, All Elite Wrestling. They are coming here. Major wrestling promotion, fledgling, only about 5 years old. So they'll be here next Saturday for their TV show Collision, and Paul Wight is going to be a part of that in some form or fashion.
Wouldn't you say he went by Paul Wight, then he went by The Big Show, then he went back to Paul Wight?
No, he went first by The Giant.
Well, what was his name when he was here?
I don't know. I don't remember. Okay. Of course it was Paul Wight.
Exactly, Jeff.
But he wasn't known as Paul Wight. He was a college basketball player and played at Wichita State. And at a time where that program was not very good. And he was not a household name. He became a household name when he went over to WCW as The Giant. Okay?
Gotcha.
Then he went over to WWE and was briefly known as Paul Wight. So I guess... And then he was kind of like The Big Show, Paul Wight, and then he was just The Big Show. Now he's Paul Wight. But people know him as Paul Wight now. When you say Paul Wight, that there's something, you know what I'm saying?
They know where you're at when you just say Paul Wight. Is that where you're going? Is that where we're going here?
They're not just like, who's that? And I'm waiting because I hope they show up. And by they, I mean Paul Wight. He's as big enough to be two people.
But is he coming by himself, or is he bringing somebody with him?
Someone's bringing him.
Well, I would think so.
When it's Paul Wight he's not a tag-along. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't bring somebody with him.
No.
Someone brings Paul Wight.
I see. Thank you for explaining all this to me.
Does it make sense?
It makes almost total sense.
Does it feel like I'm just killing time because I thought he'd be here 5 minutes ago?
It basically tells me that you're waiting for him to get here, and he's not quite here yet.
We do have an entire show today.
No.
We are building it around, certainly, the time we get to spend with Paul Wight, FKA The Big Show. But we have more going on.
What?
It's a big Friday night in high school football.
It is?
It's a huge Friday night. It's the opening round
Isn't
of the
it playoffs?
Our friends at Moundridge, who we talked with their coach yesterday, you remember him.
Yeah, I was here, Jeff.
They won. They beat Attica Argonia handily. I think it was like 66-20. So we're good luck, and we're going to try, perhaps, to extend some of that good fortune to the Marion Warriors, I believe is their nickname. We'll have the Marion coach on. His name is Sean Kraft.
Sean Kraft.
Marion is a one-loss team. They lost their last game of the season to Sedgwick. They play in the playoffs tonight, and we'll talk with Sean Kraft.
Well, there you go.
We'll also talk, Jason, with Joanna Chadwick.
No.
What are you distracted by over there?
Because I was told that Mays won last night.
Mays didn't play last night, did they?
Yeah, they played Goddard last night.
Mays beat Goddard?
Well, that was the rumor. We were at a tennis banquet for Avery last night, and as some of the girls, they started it early so they could get over to the game. And when they were leaving, they're like, hey, we're winning.
By God, Mays beat Goddard.
And Mays beat Goddard
That was the only 5A game in the state last night.
Upset last night.
And I kind of feel bad about that.
That's an upset.
I was kind of a Goddard guy this year with Tommy Beeson, but they come in to Goddard, one of my adopted hometowns, along with Cheney, Andale, and Garden Plain.
So you just kind of pick them all?
I kind of claim all of those.
Yeah.
Where do you think Paul Wight is?
Maybe he's thinking to himself, I already did an interview with this guy.
But he gets to talk to you. He gets a
that would be exciting.
He gets a surprise.
I'm sure Paul's sitting there thinking, man, I get to talk to Duda.
He gets a surprise
Who's
visit
Duda?
from Bob Lutz. I hate even bringing this up, but it is a fact, and it's going to come out eventually. When I, on the previous interview for Channel 12, told Paul Wight that I was Bob Lutz's son, he went crazy. In a flattering way for Bob, and in an absolutely shameful way for me.
Really?
That must be them. I hear some doorbells.
Oh, so you're feeling a little better now?
But yeah, it was Paul Wight. Once I told him I was Bob Lutz's son, he loosened up. He started being playful and fun and having a good time with it. It was interesting.
Is that all we got to do now? Is throw Bob's name out there?
I guess so.
And people will like us? Because I find that really hard to believe in every situation I get into.
I told Mr. Wight that it was the first time that being Bob Lutz's son had worked to my benefit.
Okay, now, yeah. Thank you for making my point.
But he really, once that was out, he even when I said I lived next door to his nephews, he was like, oh, yeah, really cool. That's great. And also, Paul, I was Bob. You're Bob Lutz's son? It was like that. He recorded a video for Bob.
No.
He's he wants to go out to lunch with Bob. I hope I get to go to that.
Well, I don't know.
I'd like to be involved in the lunch. I'll ask Paul when he gets here if I'm invited.
If you're allowed to go?
Yes.
Well, how disappointed are you going to be when he says, no, I just need to talk to Bob for a while?
Maybe he will, but I'd like to at least be a fly on the wall in that conversation.
There is that chance that could actually happen. Right?
There's a good chance.
There is obviously a good chance because that's just the way it works.
And here he is.
Hey, guys.
It's Paul Wight.
Hey, Paul.
Jason Duda, good to meet you.
Good to see you again.
Thanks, guys.
Did you just call him Dudes?
I did say Dudes, actually.
Because that's his nickname.
Is it really?
His last name is Duda.
Oh. Absolutely. See,
it comes naturally.
Yeah, it does.
What's
it's
up,
easy.
Dudes?
And his nickname is Dudes. That's amazing.
Funny.
This is Paul Wight. I'm going to have you throw your headset on because...
I'm trying.
Take your time. Because
I'm still laughing about Haley Tucker telling me I'm not 7 feet tall.
I don't know. Are you?
Oh my God!
I've seen.
You know what? Stand up. You two stand up, and I'll make the decision. Because Jeff, you're going to look like an idiot
in a minute. Right now, Paul, we have a special guest on the phone line for you.
Okay. What am I doing here?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Paul. It's your old friend, Bob Lutz. How are you?
Hey, Bob. How are you, man? I knew that was you. I recognized your voice.
What a deal, man.
How are you, buddy?
I don't know. I'm doing great. We're very appreciative that you stopped by the studio. Can't wait for next Saturday night. I do want to ask you, of course, I was a beat writer for Wichita State basketball when you played there.
Right.
And the team wasn't great, but you were phenomenal. And it was so much fun to cover you and those guys.
Well,
when did it first enter your brain that professional wrestling could be a viable option for you?
Well, I had two heavy influences at Wichita State back then that told me I should consider professional wrestling. One of them was Xavier McDaniel, and the other one was a beat reporter for Wichita State University, a guy by the name of Bob Lutz. So,
and you kind of scoffed at that originally, but you've been a natural for this from the time you were a kid. So
UNX knew that I had the talent to be a show off and have enthusiasm, and I was a good athlete. So that led into a great career in professional wrestling. I'm very happy that you guys saw something in me that I didn't see at the time, but it's funny how life turns out. Sometimes you just go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But, at 20 years old, it didn't make sense to me. I
was the one who told Bob to tell you that, hey, this guy. So
shut up, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah,
just tell Jeff to shut up. Come on.
Paul, you might as well be here all the time because we say this like 20 times every show.
Here's the dynamic between Jeff and me. He's going to try to top me every time and always fail.
Well, it's kind of like a bad Xerox copy of a fine piece of art. You're going to kind of get that's what it's supposed to be.
Too, Paul?
But it's nothing like the original. It's nothing like the original.
I'm going to turn it over to Jason and Jeff. I'm really happy I got to say hi, Paul.
Hey, I'll be back next week, so I want to make sure if you're feeling okay, if you have time, let's grab lunch or something. We'll go to Dog and Shake or something.
That would be great. I'd love that.
All right, my man. Hey, thank you so much for everything that you did for me early on and being kind and welcoming me to Wichita and making it fun. So thank you.
See you, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, buddy.
You notice he couldn't even pull over to talk to you? He's out there driving.
Hey, listen, I'm
lucky. Why do you got to do this all the time?
First of all, I can't believe that you even share the same DNA. Let's go there, all right? In all actuality, we should probably have a talk with the mailman. But no, I would never disparage your mom like that. I'm sorry. That just went bad south real quick.
It's okay.
Bob's a great person and was really good to me in a tough time for a young man, and he was always positive and he's a good dude. He's your dad. You get it. So it's just nice for me to come back this time and then have that flashback. And I'm having so many good memories and fun times and goofy conversations and stuff. And it's nice. It really is. It's nice to revisit that.
You just mentioned to him that he's someone who saw the quote unquote talent, and obviously you have talent. I'm not putting it in quotes because you don't have talent. But you do have a lot of talent. Why were you so good? Why are you so good at professional wrestling?
I have no idea. Honestly, I think the difference is I am good for the time at 7 foot over 400 pounds. I can say that unabashedly with total humility. I am probably one of the best giants to ever lace up a pair of wrestling boots. And I mean that humbly as far as things I could do in the ring, the things I did for other talent. It's not about just being big and being an attraction. It's about also making other talent. I have worked with so many people that I've helped them along their way in their careers. I was that mountain they had to conquer. I was that thing they had to overcome, and I'm proud of that fact. But as far as athletes go, there's so many tremendous athletes in pro wrestling. Like, you have to have a good athletic background in some shape or form. And then you got to have the showmanship. I was always a show-off and attention seeker. And when I was my dad used to call it an I-me complex. Like, I wanted I me. Everybody see me.
It wasn't difficult.
But my dad was just the opposite. My dad was this very quiet, calm guy that, everybody thought was a federal agent or a cop because he never said anything. I'm like, no, he's a mechanic. He's not a cop. I swear, guys, really, he's not a cop. But don't bring up weed around him. No, I'm just kidding.
Fair enough.
Paul, I'm curious on how did you go from, how did you get into wrestling? Did you have to go to a camp? Did someone just find you? I'd like to know that story on how you got there.
Dudes, it's crazy because it's such a series of events. It's almost like a timeline. Scott Thompson come into Wichita State, just for the Wichita fans here. A lot happened. Lost my grandfather, lost my dad. Coach Cohen got fired. Didn't like the new coach. That happens in athletics sometimes. Great guy, you just don't jive with him.
No, I understand.
So I tried to figure out what I was going to do in my life. I was selling cars at Rusty Ford. I was bouncing at the Cowboy. worked some at the Chicago Cab Company a couple of times, sold chemicals for State Chemical Manufacturing. I had a buddy of mine who was executive VP at Rent-A-Center, and Rent-A-Center had bought all this great karaoke equipment back in the day, like professional grade speakers and stands and players and software, but people weren't renting it.
Right.
I mean, it was just too much for them to take in, like the portable karaoke boombox everybody gets. Okay, plug, play, here we go. So they sold all that equipment to a guy in Chicago who was named Jim Strouser, who owned Jesco Karaoke in Chicago, was the nation's largest karaoke distributorship. So he came down to buy the equipment, pennies on the dollar. John knew that I needed a job to make money. So he says, hey, I can get you a job, $50 a day loading equipment. I said, I'm in. I just push a little forklift, load pallets.
Right.
No problem. Wrap stuff in plastic, load it on a semi, no problem. Thank you for the opportunity. I met this Jimmy guy who was a fast talker, self-made businessman. He was one of those guys that would literally talk himself into anything. Chicago,
yeah.
like Get Shorty I thought John Travolta from Get Shorty, I thought he had met Jimmy somewhere because they were the same guys. Like they dressed the same. The only difference was instead of loafers like Travolta had in Get Shorty, Jimmy had steel-toed covered cowboy boots.
Nice.
But same dress, sport coat, T-shirt, slacks, everything. The same dude. So Jimmy had a morning drive radio station, a morning drive thing on Danny Bonaducci's show where people would come in and sing karaoke. And I met Danny Bonaducci, who had a charity basketball game against Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Because back then there wasn't the internet. There wasn't all these schools.
Right.
There was,
yeah.
I bought Kurt Hennig a few drinks at Walter Payton's bar in Chicago to try to get a number to go to a training school. He says, I'm going to go to the bathroom. When I come back, I'll give you the number to Brad Riggins' school. He left. Years later, when I made it in WCW, he goes, oh, I see you made it. One of those kind of things. There was a chance to go to Europe and wrestle for a guy named Otto Vance who liked big guys, and I would live in Europe and live in these little caravans and wrestle every night and train as I wrestled. And I was like, I didn't want to go to Europe. I was
right.
scared. I didn't know.
Yeah, you don't know what you're getting into.
Come home without a kidney or something? You hear all the horror stories. Like, I have no money. I have nothing going on. So it was hard to get in, because getting into wrestling back then, it was a very strict family, and you had to know somebody to get in. And it was funny. Danny introduced me to Hogan. The first time I met Hogan, I did the worst thing possible, but it worked out for me. I impersonated him, because wrestlers that have character, everybody tries to impersonate them.
Of course.
After a while, it gets old.
Right.
You know what I mean? But here's me, 21 years old. Let me tell you something, brother. I've been to the top of the mountain, dude. And Hogan's eyes got real big, and I'm thinking, oh God, maybe I shouldn't have done that, because I'm like, I just cut my foot off.
Right.
He loved it, thought it was great, and he introduced me to Eric Bischoff and Ric Flair, and then October. This was in like December of '94, October of '95. My first match was Hulk Hogan, and I walked home with a world title.
That's pretty impressive.
That?
Yeah, it's really a crazy story when you think about it, because I skipped so many things that so many other guys do, and I didn't understand why at the time. But looking back now with almost 30 years of experience, I get it. Here's this 7-foot kid that's a tremendous athlete who can do moonsaults, who can do drop kicks, who has a crazy personality, who understands, who isn't ego-driven about wins, that understands entertainment, about who grew up as a fan. Like, that's a 1 in a million athlete to find it. That wasn't, dare I say this, that wasn't oddly looking, that was built proportionally. So, yeah, anybody that knows anything about wrestling can see that, there's an opportunity. If the kid's half-assed, got a good head on his shoulder, then there's money to be made with him for the promotion and the other talent. So I didn't know that then. I honestly didn't know how long I was going to have a job for, and I just thought it was great.
Well, it's lasted a long time.
I did. I last through attrition. I tell everybody now, every now and then I show up on TV and people are excited. I'm like Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. They're happy I'm still alive. Bob's got good movie taste, and
He
if
must.
if you spend a little time and looked at some of those older movies, you might learn something.
Jeff won't watch any older movies.
I will if he tells me to.
But when I tell you, I mean, we're what 3-4 years apart, but you won't. You'll listen to him, but not me.
You were first in line for the Barbie movie, right?
Yeah,
there you
got
go.
that right.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to ask you a million questions, but I know we can't. But
well, what do we got? We got time. What do you got? Fire away.
You turned from bad guy to good guy so many times
Right.
that I started feeling like you had to know they were in on it. Everybody was in on it, and you guys in WWE I'm talking about at the time were just pulling one over on the fans.
No, there's a thing called being, and it's what gave me such a long career. Listen, I was never as good as an Undertaker. I was never as good as a Kane. I was never going to be a Rock or Stone Cold or a John Cena. Chris Jericho.
I think you were at least as good as Kane.
I completely disagree. I think Kane is one of the greatest big men of all time. Not giant, big men. I mean, there's a few collection of giants that I'm pulling from. That's why I can talk all that crap. Like, Giant Silva, Andre, of course, would be number one, and then the other giants.
Haystacks Calhoun or something like that.
I don't know if Haystacks was a giant or not. Don't think Haystacks was. I'm talking about the 7-foot range.
Okay.
So that's why it's a limited category that I can say I'm really good at. Like there's only 3 of us, and damn it, I'm in the top 3. But the thing was for me is I could fill a role in the company because after a while, once you're established and once you've made your mark, then it's up to you to make the company draw money and make the other talent. You want to build talent around you and create compelling storylines. So for me, good guy to bad guy was just I could do that. The easiest story for me to tell is to be a giant and work with a smaller talent. It's in our brains. It's in our DNA of overcoming famine, disease, wars. Everybody's had a bully that's been bigger than them, that's terrorized them. It's the sayings. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight and the dog. It's easy to make that emotional connection for the audience. When you see this big monster beating up on a smaller guy, it makes sense. It's easier to tell that story. Then on the other hand, I got a goofy, fun personality. I'm a nice guy. I can wave to the fans. People know that I have a good heart. So then it's okay to like me. So that's why there were so many flip-flops, because I had to fill multiple roles in the company depending on what talent I was working with and where we were going as a company. Like I went to Vince one time about T-shirts. And I'm like, hey, he says, I don't pay you to sell T-shirts. I pay you to get other talent over. Okay, so I can't get any. Okay. And he gave me one T-shirt idea, and I never asked him again. But unfortunately, it was my best-selling T-shirt. Was the real Big Show with the arrow pointing down?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was Vince McMahon's idea, and I was like,
I should have known.
I was like, yeah. I guess I don't want to sell T-shirts. That's a little bit much for me. I'm still from South Carolina. I'm a small town kid, so that was a little bit much for me. But I'm happy about it. It kept me employed. I got to work with some of the greatest talents business has ever seen. I'm not complaining at all. I call it being employable. Maybe I would be like the take a motto from the U.S. Marine Corps, adapt and overcome. So I had to do a lot of adapting. I had to ask Vince one night, I said, am I smiling or frowning? And he had to think of me smiling. I'm like, okay. Because when I come down the ramp, that was my demeanor. Like we were working so much, and I was literally flip-flopping so much, I didn't know if I was a good guy or a bad guy.
I feel like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there came a point in your career where maybe the giant thing mattered less and the work mattered more, because like you could have a big man match with Mark Henry and it was good. You could have a medium-sized man with John Cena, or even smaller, Cody Rhodes or Rey Mysterio, and all these matches were good.
Thank you.
When did you start to recognize that, hey, I'm not only an attraction here, I can actually kind of go?
When I quit listening to what everybody else wanted me to be. That was the toughest part of my career, trying to figure out in the beginning, because the one phrase I heard from everybody, be a giant, be a giant. Okay, well, I looked that up in the dictionary, and there's no info on that. Because to be a giant wasn't employable enough, because either I ate up an opponent, or I wasn't very exciting, or it was hard to be what everyone thought, and everybody had their own opinion on a giant. I was athletic. I could move. I was aggressive. I had been in fights before, so I actually know how to throw a punch, and I know how to get irritated and beat somebody up. I know how to translate that energy.
Well, if you're bouncing at the cowboy, yep.
Well, gotta be quick on your toes.
Well,
so
could have been me.
I doubt it. So the thing is I had to take a page, and where it finally clicked with me was where it really clicked for me was circa 2008, working with Stone Cold in Europe. We were on a tour, and we wrestled every night for about 10 days straight, and Vince wanted Steve to put me over in a non-televised match in London to create some hype, because I was going to eventually start working with Brock. And I remember Steve spitting in a cup with his dip, and he goes, "I don't know, Vince. These people paid a lot of money to see Stone Cold Steve Austin hit a few stunners, drink a few beers, not do a job to the friggin' Big Show." And I'm standing there. It's almost like he dismissed me like I was a piece of trash. You know what I mean? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, I can like grab you by the ankle and beat you into the side of the building, like, And what clicked for me in the match is because he got under my skin and got me a little bit fired up, is I was early in my career always waiting for someone else to initiate what we were doing. I was waiting for them, and the business is what it is, but I was waiting for them to call something. But here's the thing that I learned: most guys, regular sized guys, no one's ever worked with someone my size, so they don't know.
Right.
So until I figured out, okay, I don't need anybody to call anything for me, and I pretty much can do what I want, when I want, at the speed I want, because I'm in charge, period.
That would be my thought if you and I were in the ring.
Well, but you have to have the confidence and the understanding to take over. And it's not just taking over so you get all your stuff in. I mean, I've had matches with guys. I mean, I had to wrestle Sting one time, and it was supposed to be a 12-minute match, and he was coming back to WWE, and we were so excited because we had worked together in WCW, and we had a lot of stuff planned, and the time got cut. So I had to go out and literally give Sting a win in 3 minutes.
Wow.
And I did. And it was fine, and we rolled on, and it was because that was my job. That's the thing you have to learn is what's your asset to the company, what asset are you as a talent, and that's how you either make a good bit of money for a short amount of time because your ego gets in the way, or you make a good bit of money for a long time because you take your ego out of it and you work to your strengths of what you bring to the table. And I knew that me bringing the table was, if I'm working a baby face, I'm aggressive, I stay on them. When it's time for them to fire up, I sell and I take their finish. Everybody gets paid, nobody gets hurt, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, but that's got to be tough because you got to run into a lot of guys in that situation that the ego's right there, or has it been pretty good throughout the years?
They don't last in the professional format if they have that ego.
And that's where I was going with that.
No, they don't. They might come in and they might, my favorite thing is when young guys are coming in, they're getting wins. They go, "Oh, I love the business. I love the business. I've loved it since I was a kid." I'm like, "Yeah, you love it now." Because you're getting W's.
Give it a minute.
Yeah. Give it a couple of years and 250 days a year for about 5 years, and the bumps and the bruises, and you haven't gotten a victory in like 2 years. Then tell me how much you love the business. You still love it then, I'll listen to you. Right now, you're green behind the ears and you don't know what you're talking about.
And what did Miz say when you told him that?
Miz? No, Miz is, that's funny. I hate Miz, the character. But Mike, I have absolutely respect for, because Mike is a hard-working individual who caught a lot of grief in the beginning from the fans, even from some talent in the locker room gave Miz a hard time. He never complained. He worked his ass off every time, and he was up for anything that the company asked him.
Yes.
Whether he looked silly, whether he looked stupid, whether he looked good, whether he looked bad, it didn't matter because Miz got it upstairs. It's entertainment. When you walk through that curtain, then you're your character. Once you walk back through that the curtain, you're who you are as a person. Like when I go home, I am not this wrestling international superstar. I'm the guy that takes out the trash. I'm the guy that sometimes misses the laundry basket and refuses to pick up that sock. You know what I mean?
Aren't we all?
I'm like, if I leave it there, she'll get it later because she can't stand it. So that's too far a trip for me to bend over. And she'll call me out, "Oh, too far to bend over, old man?" I said, "I didn't see it."
Yeah.
I didn't see it. That's my excuse for everything. I didn't see that. But that's the thing that when you really will embrace, and all your great talents that I think that I've known over the years that were incredible stars on television and worldwide stars also understood that it's not who they were. Their humility outside of the ring is what made him. Sting, icon, one of the most humble, incredible, hardworking individuals you ever met. Super humble, super chill, open to ideas, whatever you want to do. No ego whatsoever. But Sting also knows who he is as a talent. And when he goes in the ring, he is Sting. And that's a hard line for some guys to get. And if they can't separate their friends at home, like I hated being a good guy and losing all the time. When we were building bigger stars that were heels and we were building bad guys. Because they're like, oh, well, can't you just like, why are you losing? Because that's the job. I don't know. I mean, my ego feels a lot better when I get that check every Friday. I mean, you know, my ego quiets down real quick.
No doubt.
So it's not about ego. And the thing is, if your ego comes into play too much, you have to have confidence, understand. But if your ego gets in the way, you're robbing the fans of a better performance, and you're also not helping your company or your brand. Because let's be honest, nobody really remembers. If you're lucky and you have a long enough career, people remember key things that they remember, things that emotionally invested in, whether it was breaking the ring, like we talked about, or something emotionally, an angle or a promo, but they don't remember wins and losses. Wins and losses to me don't matter. If you base your entire career on your wins and loss record, then odds are you probably weren't very good anyway, because that's all you have.
We're talking with Paul Wight, and you're not just here driving through Wichita. You are actually here to talk about AEW.
Yes.
All Elite Wrestling coming.
You might want to do my job, right, Jeff?
Right. You might. I don't know.
See, Bob wouldn't let me get off track. You did. Just saying.
You're probably right about that. He's a consummate professional. So AEW Collision coming here on November 4th, Interest Bank Arena. That's next Saturday. Tell us about AEW and your involvement there.
AEW, well, we've been around a few years now. We're on TNT and TBS.
5, right? Almost.
Yeah, almost 5 years. Great program. Our owner and our boss is Tony Khan from the Khan family. They own the Jacksonville Jaguars, Fulham Soccer Club. Very successful. So as a talent, you feel comfortable because there is real money behind the promotion.
Sure. Tony's
a huge fan, very in-depth fan, and we're given a true to the core pro wrestling fan type product. There's not as much pageantry and BS, so to speak, and I mean that BS politely. We're at the core of wrestling. We have a lot of stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling that a lot of people in America don't get to see. We have a great relationship with them. We're bringing some of those guys over. They're just fantastic styles to see, fantastic talents. We have a lot of young talent. We have some faces that you've seen before, but we have a lot of authentic talent, and that's the best way I can describe it, is authentic, because these guys and gals that have promos, and that's them doing the promo. That's like years ago, no one told Ric Flair how to cut a promo.
Right.
No one's telling MJF how to cut a promo either. You know, it's authentic. There's not some writer that hands you a sheet of paper that is 5'8" and has, never been in a fight in his life, and he's telling you how to be a giant. You're like, okay. I'm 7 foot tall. I'm 500 pounds. Yeah, I know how big I am. Why am I telling it?
Why does everybody in WWE say their names first in their promos?
Because there's a logic behind that too. When you're building a brand, it's just repeat the brand, repeat the brand, repeat the brand, and that's an intellectual property that WWE owns. So every time that you repeat that brand, you're reinstilling that in the fans' minds. Like, WWE has a thing against pronouns. No he or she.
Right.
It's all the character name, because it's the character and the brand that they're billing. Just like if you're selling Pepsi-Cola or Coca-Cola, whatever or Diet Dr. Pepper. You don't say soda, this is a Diet Dr. Pepper. Or cola, this is a, whatever you're doing. So I understand that, but I think sometimes it becomes a little cookie cutter corporate, because everybody stands here. Here's your ring entrance pose. Here's your ring entrance. Here's your ring. Here's your break before you get to the match where your pose. Here's your outfit. It's not as authentic. Like, some of the old times back in the day, what made wrestling fun is you had two guys that came down there or two gals that came down there. The bell rang and they went at it. And that's what you wanted to see. You didn't want to hear all the rigmarole backstage and all the fourth wall stuff. It was just the talent, their interview time, and then the matches in the ring. And I think that it's done well. I mean, it's got an audience, that's for sure. I mean, we sold out 80,000 tickets in Wembley just on brand alone. So
yes.
It's working. It's just more of the hardcore roots of what professional wrestling is, which is telling the story in the ring, not telling all these stories outside of the ring and then giving you a little bit of match time and still not giving you a finish.
Yeah.
In AEW, they do a really good job about giving you a finish. there's going to be a win, there's going to be a loss, and if there's not a win or a loss, there's a reason as to why that makes sense. Not just they want to drag it out till next week.
Before you go, AEW, your world champion, you mentioned him, MJF.
Right.
Unbelievable. He's so good.
Such a great talent.
Why is he that good? I asked you why you were so good. Why is he that good?
He's that good because he gets it. I mean, he was a fan as a kid. He has the talent and the chops from being a Broadway singing star. I don't know if you guys know this. MJF was a child star on Broadway.
I saw the Rosie O'Donnell clip.
Okay,
I didn't know what the in between was there.
But here's the thing: he's a wrestling fan, and he loves the old school wrestling. When you see MJF, he's watching old school stuff. I mean, old school stuff from the '80s, the Attitude Era in the '90s, being the character. And MJF is a very intelligent. He's a great kid, hard worker, but he's got a little cockiness to him. Why wouldn't he? At his age, so he translates that through. To me, in a way, kind of like, and there's only going to ever be one Ric Flair, let's be honest. In my mind, he's one of the greatest promo guys, legendary promos. But you could hate Ric Flair, but you still could enjoy his promos.
Right.
MJF, people love what he has to say. They might not agree with it. They might hate him, but he's entertaining as hell to watch his promos because they feel authentic. And I think that's one of the things that because he gets it, it makes him unique and such a blessing and an asset for AEW.
Well, you've been hanging around with me for about an hour now. You probably...
Yeah, I'm about ready to cut my wrists. But,
I'm surprised you haven't.
That was dark, but I like it. We appreciate it, Paul. As we mentioned, AEW Collision coming to Interest Bank Arena November 4th. You will be here.
Yes.
And we can't wait. The crowd will see you. When you were at Subway this morning, how many people had said, hey, that's Paul Wight, or hey, that's the Big Show?
It's funny. Sometimes, as I got my double turkey because I'm watching my calories, sometimes people are afraid to say hi.
Yeah.
But you can feel them staring and, surreptitiously the phone will come out. And then they'll forget they have the sound on. You'll hear the click of the phone. That's all good. I mean, if you see me out, say hi. 9 times out of 10, unless I'm hauling butt for a flight in the airport, I'll be happy to talk to you and say hi.
Well, man, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming by.
And
Thanks
by
for being
way,
a good sport.
I was only teasing your leg about my wrist. I'm very happy to spend the day with you.
It's okay.
It is dark humor, but I'm
I
old,
love
so.
That's what we do on this show.
I know. I just don't want anybody think that Big Show. No, Paul Wight. No. I'm
Paul
good.
Wight dead at 51 after spending an hour with Jeffrey Lutz. That's not the headline we want.
No, we don't want that headline. No, we don't. We want to say that Paul White had a lovely.
You guys are both dying today. It sounds like. I'm not sure where this interview went to.
Well, we can say it's Halloween. We're having fun.
There you go.
Or Halloween morbidity. Anyway, no, thank you. It's good seeing you again, and obviously thank you for letting your dad talk to me, and thank you guys for having me on the show. And I hope during this wacky interview, I hope we pique some interest in people have a chance to come out and see AEW.
Yeah.
Make a memory. That's the thing in today's world. What can you do where you can make a memory with your friends and family? And AEW is a memory you won't forget.
That's beautiful. Thanks, man. AEW, as he said, coming November 4th, live television taping of their show Collision, which airs on Saturdays on TNT. Paul Wight, thanks, man.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. Thank you guys. Dudes, you're the man. Thank you, baby.
Good to meet you, man.
Thank you.
We'll take a break and come back, and, Big Show won't be here, so it won't be nearly as entertaining.
No, he won't be here because I'm Paul Wight. I don't own the intellectual property.
Paul
Thank
Wight
you,
won't
Jeff.
be here.
Gee, I wish you were professional like your dad.
See, this is what happens after an hour with this guy. I got to do it 2 hours every day.
I'm telling you, right now, I get the feeling Jeff would mess up a one-card funeral.
We'll be back. Stay with us.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Welcome back. Bob and Jeff on KFH. This song is also called Inside Out. The last one was, so is this one. That's by the Traveling Wilburys. Let's go to the IHOP hotline, which is Jason. Brought to you by IHOP, where guests can enjoy chicken and waffles, golden brown Belgian waffle topped with 4 buttermilk crispy chicken strips, and served with your choice of sauce. Amazing.
Sauce.
Sean Kraft is our guest, the head football coach at Marion High School. Sean, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
We're doing well. We just talked to Paul Wight, a.k.a. the Big Show of WWE fame. So you're going to need to bring it in this interview. Do you have a professional wrestling persona that you'd like to break out right now?
No, I haven't watched it in 20 years.
Fair enough.
Years.
You've got your team 7-1 going against Waubonsee tonight at home. You started the season with those 7 straight wins. So how are you feeling about the club going into the postseason here?
I think we're good. Main thing is we're all as healthy as you can be this time of year. That's kind of a big deal with a small squad, and just staying healthy, and everybody's still working hard, and still got our goals set high for the season.
Well, you mentioned small squad. Why don't you tell us about some of the guys on the team and who's really stepped up for you this year?
We've had good senior leadership this year, a good group of guys, and been working with these guys since they were 7th graders pretty much. And you got Jack Lanick, quarterback, of course, over 900 yards rushing, and you got Trevor Schaefer's over 1,000 yards rushing in the backfield with him. You got senior lineman Cole Smith, 2-year starter there. Braden Blackman, who stepped up big time this year for us at center, his first year starting. You got Jackson Batanti and Brian Wynn and Luke Watkins all up front, also blocking, getting those guys lanes to run. And, it's just all those guys on offense, Kellen Wayner, Jonathan Freeze on offense, find their roles, Jameson Looper, all those guys on offense have just done a great job of, coming along this season and getting better and better as the years went on.
Talking with Sean Kraft, the head football coach at Marion High School. Marion in the 1A playoffs tonight against Waubonsee. Do you, like I said, you started with the 7 wins. You ended with the loss to Sedgwick, and that changed your draw a little bit because now you might have to play Smith Center. Well, you will have to play Smith Center if you win tonight in round 2. Is that something that concerns you at all? Just maybe you would have had a little bit easier path, maybe if you had finished that game against Sedgwick, or is that just behind you and now the schedule is what it is?
Of course, you'd like to win that game, to win that league championship outright and district championship and get those plaques. But, kind of moving forward, every week you're going to face a good opponent at this time of year. So you have to go through them all eventually anyway to get where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy, though. All these schools that drop down to 1A, it's hard to fathom. Medicine Lodge is a 1A school. Conway Springs, you guys are in 1A. I mean, how did that happen? I guess it just seemed like that happened all at once.
I think a big part of that was when the reclassification started a few years ago, and because we were 3A for a long time, and then we were flirting with 2A. Then when Acacia reclassified, everybody made that 1A 11-man level.
Yeah,
it just dropped everybody down, the classification at least, and smaller enrollments, of course. Class sizes now are in the 30s, and once in a while we'll get a 40, but we're down in the 30s for the most part. So just enrollment size and class sizes kind of led to that.
So how would you say 1A is? Is it pretty good then when it comes to competition-wise and that sort of thing? Is it better, do you think, now that it's changed, or did you like it the way it was before?
I think it's definitely good competition across the board. Every classification is going to have their top-tier teams, and then, of course, the teams that struggle. But, there's a lot of good 1A teams now, like you said, with Conway in there and Smith Center and Pittsburgh Colgan and us. And, Sterling, a lot of teams in our league are 1A, so every week we're facing good competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean Kraft, our guest, he's the football coach at Marion. So Waubonsee tonight, they're a team that has had a lot of close games, especially the games that they've lost. They hung with Smith Center. Obviously, you get to this point with teams that have, either won their district or finished high in their district and come out of, those things playing pretty well. So what do you see in Waubonsee, and how did you kind of prepare for them this week?
They're definitely good squad. We lost him in the second round last year. We had to go up there and face them and lost by a touchdown to them just last year. So we're kind of familiar with some of their players, and we definitely know their quarterback, can run the ball and scramble around, make plays happen, and keep plays alive. Defensive line, offensive line are physical, come off the ball great. And we've just tried to match that all week in practice and try to drill that over and over, that we got to match their physicality and take it up another notch this year.
Coach, with your own squad, we talked about some players, but do you hang your hat a little bit more on offense or defense? And, obviously you want to be well-rounded, but a lot of times with the team, you kind of got to hold one side of the ball you're a little stronger on.
It was the same guys that play both sides of the ball.
Well, so yeah. Are they better offensively or defensively?
we just flip over. So, if we try to keep the defense off the field, we're really not doing that either way. So,
but how is that for the kids? Like, I can't imagine having to play both ways that much for the whole game. Your kids got to be in phenomenal shape.
Yeah, we had great attendance all summer long, and just, preach to them that, hey, you guys are not coming off the field this year. You guys are going to be playing the whole 48 minutes, and we got to be ready to go. So they knew that coming in, and we worked all summer, and, as the seasons went along, we got in better and better game shape and had that be less affected towards us, having to play both ways all the time.
Sean Kraft, our guest from Marion High School. So this is your 6th year at Marion, your best year by far. Well, not by far. You won 6 games last year. Why is this the best team? What does this team have that maybe the other ones fell short a little bit?
I think it's just going back to the seniors we have this year and the leadership and, holding other players accountable and taking that off the coaches. Whenever you got players that are taking that role in leadership, you're going to have a pretty good team. And, that just carries over to the field, I believe.
How bad do you want to see Sedgwick again? I'm looking at the bracket. I don't know exactly. I guess that could be in a couple games. But that's a team you lost to close last year. You lost to them really close this year. Is that a game that you want to get to again? Or does it even matter at this point?
Of course, you always like a rematch. But, this time of year is just one game at a time. Win this week so we can keep playing next week. Don't let this be your final practice or final week of practice or final game. Keep it going.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time, Coach. Good luck tonight. Thanks for making time for us on a game night. We appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And we got a little Marion football talk in.
Happy days.
It goes Paul Wight and then Marion football. Probably
they're both the
two
same.
Big attractions.
Absolutely.
I mean, the same people that are going to go see Paul Wight in AEW next Saturday, they're going to be at the Marion Waubonsee game tonight.
Yeah, there'll be 20,000 there and then 20,000 next Saturday. I mean,
hope.
It just is it is. I hope they got enough hot dogs ready in Waubonsee.
Let's hope. Well, it'll be in Marion, but it's cool.
Or Merriam, sorry.
All right, we got hour number 2 coming up. What do we do?
I would probably just run that interview back again.
Can we just rerun that?
We should probably just do that.
Yes.
And
it's not going to get any better.
And I'll go get another coffee and just enjoy listening.
That works for me. I guess if not that, we'll figure something out. Stay with us, hour number 2, the final hour of the week of Bob and Jeff. Stay with us.